Did you kill your parents?
No. Never. Never.
This is the story of 42-year-old Antonio Armstrong, a former NFL player, motivational speaker, and fitness guru who, along with his 42-year-old wife, Dawn Armstrong, was killed in his bedroom in his house in Bel Air, Texas, in July 2016 by his 16-year-old son Antonio Jr. This case became a very high-profile case after their son denied knowing anything about their death. Hello and welcome to Twisted Crimes. Subscribe and hit the like button for more stories. Antonio Armstrong Sr. was born on October 15, 1973, in Houston, Texas. He had a passion for football and a talent that would take him far. He played for Texas A&M University, where he was a star linebacker and a team captain. He was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in 1995 and later played for the Miami Dolphins and the St. Louis Rams. He retired from the NFL in 2000, after suffering a knee injury. He became a motivational speaker, a fitness advocate, and a co-owner of a gym with his wife, Dawn. Dawn met Antonio when they were both students at Texas A&M. They fell in love and got married in 1995. They had 3 children, Antonio Jr., Josh, and Kara. Dawn was a supportive wife, a caring mother, and a business partner. She helped Antonio run the gym and also worked as a personal trainer and a nutritionist. She was also active in their ministry, where they shared their faith and helped others in need. They were a happy and harmonious family, or so it seemed. The Armstrong children were raised in a comfortable and affluent home, where they had everything they wanted. They attended private schools, played sports, and enjoyed hobbies. Antonio Jr., or AJ, as he was known, was the most athletic. He followed his father's footsteps and played football as a quarterback. He was a popular and charismatic kid, who had many friends and admirers. He also had a girlfriend, who he dated for over a year. The Armstrong family seemed to have a perfect life, but there were signs of trouble brewing beneath the surface. AJ and his father had a strained relationship, marked by high expectations and pressure. AJ felt that his father was too hard on him and that he could never live up to his standards. He also resented his father for being absent and busy with his work and ministry. He felt that his father favored his siblings over him and that he did not understand him. AJ also had conflicts with his mother, whom he accused of being controlling and intrusive. He felt that his mother was too involved in his personal life and that she did not respect his privacy. He also blamed his mother for siding with his father, and for not standing up for him. AJ began to rebel against his parents and to act out in ways that alarmed them. He started to skip school, to smoke marijuana, and to sneak out at night. He also became more aggressive and disrespectful and got into fights with his parents and his siblings. He was a troubled and angry teenager, who harbored a deep resentment and hatred towards his parents. On July 28, 2016, the Armstrong family had a normal day. They went to work, to school, and to their activities. They had dinner together and watched TV. They seemed to be in good spirits and did not have any arguments. They retired to bed around 10 p.m., after securing the home with the alarm system. Around 1:30 a.m., a loud noise woke up Josh and Kara. They heard gunshots coming from their parents' bedroom. They were terrified and did not know what to do. They stayed in their rooms and hoped that everything was okay. Meanwhile, AJ called 911 and told the operator that he heard gunshots at his home. He said that he saw a masked intruder running out of his parents' bedroom and that he was hiding in a closet in his room. The police arrived within minutes and found the front door locked. They rang the doorbell and waited for someone to answer. They heard AJ's voice from inside, telling them to come in. He had to disable the alarm system to let them in. The police entered the house and followed the sound of AJ's voice. They went upstairs and found AJ in his room. He was still on the phone with the operator, and he was holding a cell phone and a laptop. He told the police that his parents were shot and that the shooter had escaped. He said that he did not know where his siblings were and that he was worried about them. The police told him to stay put and to keep his hands visible. They then proceeded to check the rest of the house. The police then went downstairs and found the master bedroom. They saw a horrific scene. Dawn and Antonio were lying in their bed, covered in blood. They had both been shot in the head, at close range. Dawn was already dead, and Antonio was barely alive. He had a faint pulse and was gasping for air. The police called for an ambulance and tried to save him. They also noticed a gun on the nightstand and a note on the dresser. The gun was a .22 caliber pistol, and it belonged to Antonio. The police quickly realized that they had a murder mystery on their hands. They had no suspects, no witnesses, and no motive. They had to rely on the physical evidence and the statements of the family members. They started to question AJ, who was the only one who claimed to have seen the shooter. They took him to the police station and asked him to tell them what happened. AJ repeated his story. The police were not convinced by AJ's story. They found it hard to believe that a masked intruder would break into the Armstrong home, shoot the parents, leave a note, and then flee without taking anything or harming the children. They also found it strange that the security system was not triggered, and that there were no signs of forced entry. They wondered how the intruder got in and out of the house, and why they left the gun and the note behind. They also noticed that AJ was calm and composed and that he did not show much emotion. They expected him to be more upset and distraught, and to cry and grieve. They thought that he was hiding something and that he was not telling the truth. AJ was finally arrested as a prime suspect and charged with capital murder, a crime that carries the death penalty in Texas. He pleaded not guilty and maintained his innocence. He was represented by a team of lawyers who argued that AJ was a victim of a home invasion and that the police had botched the investigation. They claimed that the security system was faulty and that the intruder had entered through an unlocked back door. They also challenged the validity of the physical evidence and suggested that it was planted or contaminated. They pointed to the note and said that it was a clue left by the real killer. They said that AJ had no motive, no history of violence, and no mental illness. They said that he was a good kid, who loved his parents, and who was traumatized by their deaths. The prosecution had a different theory. They argued that AJ was the sole perpetrator and that he had planned and executed the murder of his parents. They said that the security system was working and that there was no intruder. They presented the physical evidence and said that it proved that AJ had fired the gun. They said that AJ was angry and resentful towards his parents and that he wanted to get rid of them. They said that he was a cold-blooded killer, who showed no remorse, and who lied to cover up his crime. AJ faced 3 trials. The first 2 trials ended in mistrials, as the juries could not agree on a verdict.
Second time a mistrial is declared in the capital murder case of a man accused of killing his parents. AJ Armstrong is accused of murdering both parents back in 2016. Today, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. Prosecutors say Antonio shot his mother, Dawn, and father, former NFL player Antonio Armstrong Sr., while they slept. Prosecutors say the family was having issues over Armstrong's grades and his bad behavior. Now, Antonio claims a masked person came into their home and killed his parents. It's unclear right now if there's going to be a third trial.
Why do this interview? Why talk to me?
I mean, I feel like people probably would like to hear from me and just hear the things that I have to say, and just because I mean I'm always quiet about things, so I'm sure they probably would like to know what AJ has to say.
Everyone has, I'm sure you've talked about this at length. I have to ask you just one time, did you kill your parents?
No, never, never.
What do you want to say to them?
I mean, for me, it's as simple as I didn't do it. It's just as simple as that. I've been adamant about that since the moment everything happened, from the moment I was on the phone till this day. I've said I didn't do it. I'll never change from that because I know it's the truth. And for me, that's just, that's just the one thing that I really want people to know, because being in this situation and just that being a constant reminder that someone would even think that it's something that I would do, it's just, it hurts. It's frustrating.
There are people out there watching this who think, yeah, he did it, he killed his parents. How do you take that in?
If you would have asked me that a couple years ago, I would have told you it genuinely bothered me. But now, with me growing up and maturing, I can't sit here and allow it to affect me, because at the end of the day, not everyone's gonna love me.
What if they find you guilty?
Like I told you earlier, I refuse to think about that.
In 2019, we interviewed him, and in 2020 as well.
In 2019, the first jury deadlocked after failing to reach a unanimous verdict, with 8 jurors voting guilty and 4 voting not guilty. In the 2022 retrial, a second set of jurors was also unable to reach a verdict. In 2023, a third trial focused on the alarm system, which showed no activity or signs of an intruder on the first floor of the residence, as well as newly discovered DNA evidence revealing the presence of Armstrong Sr.'s blood on his son's shirt. The defense suggested that the DNA evidence was contaminated or planted. The prosecution said that the DNA evidence proved that AJ had fired the gun. The trial lasted for 5 weeks and involved over 70 witnesses and hundreds of exhibits. The witnesses included new experts, friends, and relatives of the Armstrong family, who testified for both sides. The witnesses also included Josh, who said that he had heard AJ and his parents arguing on the night of the incident and that he had seen AJ holding a gun in his room. The trial ended on August 16, 2023, with the closing arguments from both sides. The defense urged the jury to consider the reasonable doubt and to acquit AJ of the charges. They said that the prosecution had failed to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt and that they had relied on circumstantial and unreliable evidence. The prosecution urged the jury to consider the overwhelming evidence and to convict AJ of the charges. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and reached a unanimous verdict. They found AJ guilty of murdering both his parents and recommended life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 40 years.
Cause number 154-6111, the state of Texas versus Antonio Armstrong Jr. We, the jury, find the defendant, Antonio Armstrong Jr., guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment. It's signed the foreperson of the jury.
Armstrong was stoic as the judge read those words, and as he was taken into custody, his wife was crying in the courtroom. Many of the family members who have supported him through the last 7 years appeared emotional as well. 2 previous trials ended with deadlocked juries. I asked Armstrong's lawyer why he believes the outcome was different this time.
So every trial is different. Every jury is different. It's impossible to predict from a last trial what's going to happen in the next trial. So it's just the risk involved in jury trials. Anything can happen. They're different people. And the other thing is the prosecution knew everything that we were going to do. And you know, it's very difficult to do it twice. It's almost impossible to do it 3 times.
DeToto told us both Armstrong and his family are devastated. He said Armstrong's family will rally and help AJ, his wife, and young son get through this. DeToto told me Armstrong has already filed a notice of appeal, though he'll need to find a different lawyer because the appellate process is completely different.
But we always felt that Dawn and Antonio would have been on our side, and so that helped us push through and get through these trials.
Antonio Sr. and Dawn Armstrong died because they were trying to be good parents, because they wanted their children to do right, not to lie, to work, to be law-abiding, contributing adults. And for that, they paid with their lives. And so today, we've now seen what a murderer looks like. It can be anyone, and the fact that it was their own son is it's a trauma. It is a tragedy for the whole family.
Because he was a minor at the time he committed the murders, the death penalty was not an option. The judge accepted the jury's verdict and sentence and ordered AJ to be taken into custody. The case attracted a lot of attention and sparked a lot of debate. Some people believed that AJ was innocent and that he was a scapegoat for a botched investigation. They rallied behind AJ and demanded his freedom. Others believed that he was guilty and that he was a monster who killed his parents.
We are getting a first look at some of the evidence in the A.J. Armstrong trials. Armstrong was recently convicted of the murder of his parents in 2016 after 2 previous mistrials. Ugochi Iloka visited a Harris County office that preserves everything.
We're inside a criminal exhibit room where the evidence for the A.J. Armstrong trial is being stored. I spoke to a senior criminal exhibit clerk for the Harris County District Clerk's office. She shares exactly what she does here.
When I bring the exhibits back, I box them. If they're in a box completely by themselves, I put a label on it with the case number and the defendant's name.
Senior Clerk Rhonda Spinks is authorized to provide the Armstrong trial exhibits upon media request. We saw first-hand pictures taken at the crime scene of the Armstrong home in Southwest Houston on July 29, 2016. This includes the gun used to kill Antonio and Don Armstrong, and a note that says, "I'm watching you," left on the kitchen counter. We also saw A.J. Armstrong's shirt with spots of blood the prosecution used as evidence and pictures of carpet burn. This was linked to when A.J., at just 16 years old, allegedly tried to burn the house down a few days before murdering his parents. The court reporter on this case handed over everything to Spinks, who says she doesn't take her role lightly.
We don't sit here going through the stuff, you know, just for funs or giggles, you know. It's preserved for its entirety.
They said that he was a cold-blooded murderer and that he deserved the death penalty. The case also had a profound impact on the Armstrong family and their friends and relatives. They had to cope with the loss of Dawn and Antonio, who were beloved and respected members of the community. They had to deal with the grief, the shock, and the anger. They had to face the media, the public, and the court. They had to choose sides and support or oppose A.J. They had to live with the consequences and hope for closure. Our deepest condolences to the family of Antonio and Dawn Armstrong. May their souls continue to rest in peace.